Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to this topic today, how to fund your business. I'm Jill with Aviatra. You'll hear a little bit more about me as we go. Also on the call today is Jasmine, our Marketing and Development Director. So let's get started. So this session is for you if you're a business owner who is ready to take their business to the next level and really believes that they need outside funding to do that. So the types of businesses that work well for the things that we're going to talk about are service businesses, retail, products, food and beverage, health and wellness. So this is not information for people who want funding from like venture capital. So there's a lot of complexities with venture capital. For example, the pre-seed funding, the seed funding, your Series A fundraise, and all of that. And I don't know enough about that to teach. So if you are a business who would be a good fit for venture capital, this is not the right session for you. However, if that's not you and you're not a venture capital type of business, then this session is for you. So I just wanted to make sure we had the right people in the room who this is going to be helpful for. So as I said, I'm Jill with Aviatra Accelerators. This is our small but mighty team. Jasmine Hughes is on the call, and Patrice is our community manager, Patrice Adams. So this presentation is going to be real talk from an outsider. I am not in the finance field. And when I started learning and talking about finance with funders, so that's lenders and investors, grantors, I got a lot of eye-opening insights. So I'm going to be able to share those with you. This is not insights that the average person would be privy to. So I'm excited to be able to share it with you today about how to get your business funded. If you would like to download the worksheet that goes along with this, this is the QR code to do so. And we have a link that we can put in the chat. Let me grab that. There is the link for the worksheet, or you can grab it with the QR code. Give everybody a moment to do that. On the worksheet, there's also a link to our fundability assessment, and I'll talk about that in the program in today's workshop as well. So here's what my promise is for you today. By the time we're done, you will understand all the ways that you can fund your business and which ones are possibly right for you. You'll also understand more about using what we're going to call outside funding for your business. So I'll get into this more as we go. I'm also going to play the role of the tow truck driver. So if I'm a tow truck driver and I am driving down the road and I see you on the side of the road with a flat tire, you would want me to stop and help you, right? Because I have the solution to your problem. If I drove on by and kept driving and didn't stop for you, even though I have a tow truck and you have a flat tire, that would be doing you a disservice. So I can help you get ready to get funding for your business. And I believe, just like the tow truck driver, if I can solve your problem and I don't at least tell you about the solution that I have, then I would be doing you a disservice for not telling you. So at the end of the presentation, I'm going to share that valuable free tool. So that's more about our free fundability assessment and that helpful program that we offer that's called Capital Ready Women. Okay, so I am going to ask you kind of a strange thing. I want you to reach around and give yourself a little pat on the back because you are an action taker. And you may have heard the phrase, action takers are money makers. Well, there's a reason for that. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a business, or even if you just have a business idea, you're an action taker by showing up today. That's amazing. You found something that you wanted to learn more about and you were signed up and here you are. So congratulations. This is a great indication of your success path. So I want you to take a moment and think about why you started your business. There are probably several reasons why you started your business, but I want you to give a moment and think about them. And on the worksheet, there's room for writing this if you want to do that. There's a lot of challenges that come up when you are thinking about funding your business. So you might be overwhelmed about all the options, not have a lot of clarity about what they are, how to qualify, how to get the money. You might not even know what funders care about, so that even if you're having a conversation with a funder, you wouldn't know what to talk to them about. And there may be a little voice inside you that is saying, yeah, what if I don't get funding for my business and I have to close my business? Does that mean I'm a failure? These are some of the challenges that I totally get. Believe me, I'll tell you a little story in a minute. But of course, on the flip side, what you really want is the opposite, right? You want to be the owner of a successful business and a respected member of the community. And of course, you want that sense of pride that comes with being a successful business owner and creating your own financial destiny and building something that helps people with the things that you're passionate about and your own personal talents. I mean, that's probably some of the reasons why you started your business in the first place. What you're seeing right now is my inspiration folder for my interior design shop. I'm going to step back for a second and show you myself. This is me 20 years ago. Young Jill, we're going to call her, baby business owner. I started my interior design business called Design for Real People. And I thought that it would be so amazing to have a shop. So I started collecting things, all of my inspiration. So I had, as you can see, I had articles ripped out of magazines. I had fabric samples, paint samples. I had all these notes and ideas for how I could display my beautiful things that I was going to have, and how I could have classes, and how I could help people. They would come in and want help for choosing beautiful things for their home, and I could build my clientele that way. And so when I was imagining all of this, I realized, but I realized that in my situation, I could not do this without outside money. I could not, I did not have all the money that I needed to rent a store and build it out and buy all the inventory and do all these amazing things with my own money. So we're going to fast forward to 2022 when I started working at Aviatra. And I heard this very startling statistic, which is that in 2022, that same year that I started working for Aviatra, women, of all the small business loans that were given in America that year, women only received 5% of them, despite the fact that at the time, women owned 30% of the small businesses in America. Now they own nearly half. So I realized that I had the opportunity, working for Aviatra, helping women entrepreneurs start, grow, and fund their businesses. I had this opportunity to change that statistic, at least in our own little way in our region. So I gathered together what I called my capital advisory group. So I have representatives from all these different funders, and we had some really great, honest conversations about what they cared about, how they decided which businesses to fund. And I learned so much, which is why I want to talk with you today and share what I learned. So what happened with the store that I wanted to open? Well, like I mentioned, I knew I needed outside funding, but I had no idea how to get it. But guess what? I never tried to learn. I never asked anyone at all for help on how to figure that out. So my little store never came to be. So all I have still of this whole amazing store idea is this inspiration folder that sits in a filing cabinet. So I do not want that for you. I don't want you to miss out on your dreams. So that's why we are coming together to talk today, right? And again, why I want to applaud you for being here and taking some action to learn what your options are. I wish I had done that 20 years ago. So let's dig into it. how to fund your business. So there are three big categories of money that people use to fund their businesses. So the three categories are your money, free money, and leveraged money. And then there's two types of money in each of those categories. So let's dig into this. Okay. So the first category is your money. And the two types of money within your money are bootstrapping and family and friends. So leverage free money. So I changed my slides at the last video, so I forgot this one. Okay, so then free money includes crowdfunding and grants. And I say free in quotes, and we'll get to that. It's not always 100% free. And then leveraged money is investors and loans. So let's get started with your money. Bootstrapping. So bootstrapping is using your own money and money from sales that you make to fund your business. 78% of businesses in America are bootstrapped to start. So you put in your own money, some of your own money, right, to buy some materials for whatever you're going to make, or to buy your laptop, maybe to rent a small space, and that's your money. And then you continue to go on by making sales. And then when you make sales, that money can go to buy more materials, or buy a new software, pay for a new software, or pay for your next month's rent. So that's bootstrapping. And it works really well for you if you have some money to put into your business initially, and if you can make sales rather quickly so that you don't have to keep pouring all of your money into the business and you start using customers' money in the business. So some tips for bootstrapping are definitely keep your startup costs as low as possible. When I'm thinking back to my store idea and how I wanted to fill it with beautiful things, probably wouldn't have been the best way to start out to keep my costs low. Probably would have been a lot better if I had rented it and then maybe, thrifted some things or did some things on consignment, that sort of thing. So I wasn't paying out all that money for that inventory. And then the other tip is to start selling as soon as you can to generate revenue. I know many of us want everything to be absolutely perfect before we open our doors, whether it's actual doors or our virtual doors. But I would encourage you to just try to get started, even if it's not absolutely perfect from day one, because you need to start generating some sales, right? Some money to continue to fund your expenses. Okay, the second kind of free money is money from family and friends. So these are loans or gifts from people that you already know. In America, 1/3 of the small businesses were initially funded with family and friend money. So you're in good company if this is one of your strategies. The benefits are that there's flexible terms. A lot of times they might even be gifts, but if they're not gifts, they're usually very flexible about when they're going to be repaid. Credit score is not a factor, as it is with a bank. So, your best friend isn't saying, yeah, what's your credit score before I give you some money? That's not happening. When you do loans with family and friends, if you structure it as a loan, there's often a lower interest rate, and there's typically no collateral necessary. So you don't have to, they're not going to force you to sell your house if you don't end up making the business a success. Some tips for this type of money: treat it like a business meeting. So treat these conversations that you're having, even if it's with your parents or siblings or your best friends, treat it like a business meeting, because this is serious, right? This is their money, and they are very generously offering to help you. And so you have to give, even if you're pretty sure it's going to be a gift, don't assume. Offer some repayment options. A lot of times what works well with family and friends money is say, can I not start paying you back for a year? So I have the use of your money for a year, and then I'll start paying you back. And oftentimes that's fine. It's helpful to provide a business plan so they can see that you're serious. That's another thing with family and friends, and you say, I want to start a business. A lot of times our family and friends are like, oh, cute, that's cute. That's not where we want to be. We don't want to be them saying, oh, how cute, let me give you a few dollars. No, no, you're a business owner. So in order to be taken seriously as a business owner, you have to show that you have put some thought into how you're going to make your business a success. So if you can provide a business plan, even if it's a kind of a short one, I would do that. And then whatever kind of arrangement you make, if it's gift or a loan or equity, whatever it is, put it in writing. Absolutely critical. And I really mean this. I know it's going to be awkward if your parents give you money and they say, you can start paying us back whenever you want, honey. Put it in writing. If they pass and before you pay them back and a sibling comes in, or maybe your siblings are on board, but what if your sibling passes and then their partner is coming at you for this money? Like, ooh, so many possible bad situations. But if you have it in writing, then there's no problem. So money for family and friends is for you if your friends have money and you're willing to risk the relationship. Because if things go, if you treat it very much like a business arrangement, it's less likely that things are going to go badly. But you definitely, when you're talking with money and family and friends, things could go south. So if you're willing to take that risk, then this is a great option for you to fund your business. So do we have any questions about the your money category, bootstrapping, family and friends? And Jasmine's going to field the questions. Do we have any questions yet, Jasmine? Nope.
Nope, not yet. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. All right. If you have any questions anytime along the way, just type them in. And then when we take a question break, Jasmine will share them with me. All righty. So the next category is free money. And again, put that in quotes. Okay. So the first type of free money is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is when you raise many small amounts of money from a large number of people. And if everybody gives you, $50 and you have 10 people giving you $50, well, then that's a decent amount of money, right? So the benefits of crowdfunding is that your credit score is not relevant. Nobody is asking. They might care, but they can't ask. The funding is from multiple sources, so you're not needing a lot of money from one source, which can be more difficult to get. Many times, crowdfunding campaigns are considered to be a marketing play. If you go up on, like, we're going to talk about the platforms and the options, but let's say Kickstarter is a really big one. A lot of times that's how new products are marketed. Even if they never make their fundraise, now a lot of people know about them. And the crowdfunding, you avoid bank fees and interests. There are, the platforms take a percentage. So that's why I was like free money, right? It's not 100% free, but it's much lower cost than if you get it from a bank and you're paying interest on it all the way along. So some of the platforms, you probably have heard all of them. Kickstarter and Indiegogo are typically really popular for products, especially new products, or product ideas. So a lot of times this is the first funding that people are trying for. And so they're like, hey, if a lot of people like this idea, then I'll build the thing. So it's another great benefit actually of it, is just sort of testing the market. If a lot of people get behind it, then that's probably going to be a successful product. GoFundMe is more for personal appeals. So I'm sure if you've ever gone on GoFundMe, you'll see a lot of things like my father was diagnosed with cancer and he needs an operation and he doesn't have insurance. And so it's raising money for things like that, for personal causes. Kickstarter and Indiegogo are you only get the money if you raise the whole amount. So let's say you said, I want to raise $5,000 and you raised $4,999. You would not get those $4,999. You wouldn't get it. You have to at least make, and you can exceed your goal. So a strategy there is to put your goal down a little bit lower so that it's easier for you to make the goal. However, if you are counting on that crowdfunding campaign to fully fund the first production of whatever you're making, then you have to set it to what will do that, right? How at the minimum amount that you need to make that happen. GoFundMe will, at least in the past has been, if you raise, whatever you raise, they'll give you, even if it doesn't reach your goal. Wonder Fund is a fund that actually was started here locally in Cincinnati, and it's more of a heart-centered sort of mission-driven organization. So they fund, but this is usually debt funding. So it's crowdsourcing debt. So again, it's not free because you have to pay it back, but it's crowdsourced. And it has a little bit of a looser requirement, much like, banking. The banking industry is highly regulated. So there's very little flexibility that a banker has, but an individual investor has some more flexibility. And so that's typically debt equity, but they're giving you the money that you need, and it's crowdfunded. So again, you don't have to get one funder who's giving you 500,000. You can get several people who are giving you smaller amounts. And then Kiva is a crowdsourced zero interest loan platform. So the loans that they give are very small, like maybe the average I think is $5,000, but they're crowdsourced, and then the borrower pays the money back to Kiva, and then Kiva pays every person back every time you make a payment. So the borrower doesn't have to do any of that. They just make one payment. Some tips for crowdfunding, especially on the platforms Kickstarter and Indiegogo. These are usually incentivized, and so it's another reason it's not free money. So if you are going to have, let's use our friends from Cooler Keg as an example. So Cooler Keg, it's a husband and wife couple, and they created this kind of like, it's about this big. It's a little kegerator, about that big, and you could take it, on the boat, in the camper with you, whatever, and you could have two kinds of whatever it is that you want on tap. Could be beer, could be mocktails, could be, margaritas, whatever it is that you want. So they did an Indiegogo campaign, and they had different levels of rewards. So if you gave them, let's say like $100, you got a coupon. If you gave to save money on the Cooler Keg, if you gave them $500, you got a Cooler Keg. So a lot of times you'll see like you get a t-shirt if you're at this level, you'll get an invitation at this level, you'll get a coupon at this level, different levels. And so that incentivizes people to give a little bit more so that they can get to the next reward. Sharing your campaign widely is critical. Kickstarter and Indiegogo, GoFundMe, there are so many campaigns on there that it's unlikely that you are naturally going to get discovered on Kickstarter. So you have to do your own marketing of your campaign and send people to that link of your campaign. Also, it's a great idea with the platforms Indiegogo and Kickstarter. There's a lot of companies that work with the people who are doing the campaigns to make their campaigns better, more professional, slicker videos, better membership tier, reward tiers. And so, the bar is pretty high for those things because people are paying these companies to help them have a really slick campaign. So the average person, it's harder for them to get noticed over these really great looking campaigns. So that's a potential, maybe work with a service to make it better. The Cooler Keg people, what they did work with the service, but what ended up happening, they were successful with Indiegogo, but what happened was kind of an accident. They were they did a post to drive excitement and feed the algorithm there on Indiegogo, and they did this post where they had in the Cooler Keg they had Pabst Blue Ribbon and Bud Light, and they were just pouring them. They're demonstrating, and there were so many comments like Bud Light is the way to go and PBR is disgusting, and so they had all this sort of back and forth between the people who had viewed the video, and there was so much interaction that the algorithm started feeding their campaign to more people. So it just kind of went viral that way unintentionally. And then they credit that more than the company that they worked with for their success. So crowdfunding is for you if you are a good fit for the platform that interests you. Services on these platforms like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, you're not going to get any traction there. So the second type of free money in the free money category is grants. So grants are money given by an organization for a specific purpose. The benefits are you do not have to repay a grant, and some grants come with extra support to help you be successful. There are a lot of challenges that come with grants for for-profit businesses. Many grantors want to give to nonprofits because they get a tax benefit. So if they give a grant to a for-profit business, there is no tax benefit to the organization. So that's a big reason why there are not that many grants for for-profit businesses. So they can be difficult to find. The applications can be complicated, and they often, the grantor wants to have a certain impact with their money. So they're funding things in whatever things that particularly interest them. So that we call them funder priorities. So they have a priority. And if you are not doing whatever it is that they want that money to be used for, you might have to start doing something new. So example, if you're doing a project that, let's say you're doing a project that is going to bring a grocery store into a food desert. So this is great, right? Like that's a wonderful thing, but maybe what this particular grantor wants is to bring Wi-Fi to that same area. Well, you might go, okay, well, we'll add Wi-Fi to our grocery store. And so this is something that you weren't intending to do, but because you might get some money to pay for it, you add it on there. So it's just kind of some complexities there. So the tips for grants: search regularly. There are new grants that pop up all the time. So just search for, grants. You can search on Google grants for businesses. You can, if you have a specific business, like grants for grocery stores, grants for marketing businesses, whatever it is that you decide, or you can, if you're looking to have something specific funded, so grants for software, something like that for for-profit businesses. You definitely are going to set aside some time to write the application. You usually have to really think through what you want to say about your company and about yourself and about what you want the money for. And there's almost always character limits. So you can't just go on and on and on. You have to be pretty concise. So you want to think that through and set aside some time to do that. Don't just dash it off, right? You might, in fact, want to consider working with a grant writer because they know how to do all of that. So basically, you will explain what you're wanting to do and about your business with the grant writer, and they'll actually write the grant. But of course, they charge for that. That's their business. So grants are for you if you can find a relevant grant and you have time to apply. Okay, are there any questions about the quote unquote free money category?
Nothing yet. Thank you so much.
All righty.
But absolutely feel free to type away in the chat as we go along, and we will bring up the questions as they are relevant.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the third category of business funding money is leveraged money. So leveraged money is outside money that is not free, that you use. The goal of it is so that you use that money, you're going to leverage it to make greater profit than the money costs you. Does that make sense? So if you have to pay interest on the money, your goal is to make more with that money than what you end up having to pay in interest. So there's two types of leveraged money: equity and debt. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about the balancing act that funders have to maintain at all times. So I mentioned banks are highly regulated. Investors are regulated too, but not as highly regulated. But on the one hand, they want to invest in you. They want to help your business. They want to lend you money or give you money for invest in you. They want to do that. That's their whole purpose. But on the other hand, they don't want to lose their money. So they are trying to reduce the amount of risk that they have. So you're always going to, I'm sure you've heard that thing where the only people that can get money are people who already have money, right? Well, that makes sense from the lender or the investor perspective, because if the person already has money, then they know they're going to get it back. If somebody comes to them with no money at all, it's less likely that they're going to get it back. So there's always that balance. And so a lot of times I hear people get really frustrated with funding because it's so difficult to get the money. But if you think about it, if it were your money, you would not want to just give it to anyone either. You'd really want to make sure that you were giving it to somebody who was going to be able to give it back to you. So I just wanted to call that out because it can be a frustrating process, but we have to have some understanding of their situation and they have to have some understanding of our situation. So I mentioned there's two types of leverage money. One is equity, and equity money comes from investors. So investors give money to a business in exchange for a percentage of ownership of the business. So that's the equity part. So when you think about an investment or a business, you can imagine it as having, let's say, 100 shares. So you're going to take the whole value of the business and you're dividing it up by 100. Each percentage, which would be 1%, right, has a certain dollar value. So that's the equity that they would get if an investor said, I will buy one share of your business in the hope. So it would be like whatever your business value divided by 100, they're going to pay you for one share. And the hope is that your business will grow. You can use that money so your business will grow, and then they'll get more than they invested, and you'll get more money out of it than you have to pay them back. So the benefits of working with an investor: credit score is not always a factor. Banks, it's always a factor. But investors sometimes don't really care about that. They really care more about what they think of you, how strong your business idea is, how much growth opportunity they think you have. So a lot of times it's very validating, because when you get somebody else who believes in your idea enough to put money into it, it's pretty validating. It feels pretty great. Also, investment money can often have very flexible terms. So of course, it's going to be terms that are not necessarily going to favor the investor, but definitely they're going to want to, make money off of this. That's the whole point. If they wanted to make a whole bunch of money off of their money, they could put it into the stock market, but they're choosing not to do that. They're foregoing the possible profit from stocks, and they're going to put it in your company. So they want to make money from that, right? That makes sense. You would want the same. So it can have flexible terms more than like a loan. A loan's very rigid terms usually. And oftentimes the investor can offer extra support because they really, really want you to succeed. So they might share some of their wisdom, their experience, their advice with you. So like I mentioned, their goal, your goal, of course, is to leverage the investor's money to make way more than you would have otherwise. So if you didn't have their money, it would stunt your growth of your business. But with their money, you hope to use that to make more money than you would have otherwise, which makes it worthwhile, even though you don't own 100% of the company. So it's definitely a consideration for yourself, right? Are you willing to give up some of the ownership of the company in order to get the money that you need to grow bigger? And then, as I mentioned, the investor's goal is to help you grow a profitable business that will give them back more than they originally invested. So the challenges with working with an investor is you do have to repay it, of course, either with interest or, which is that debt equity that I mentioned, or by selling your business. Many investors typically don't get their money back until you sell. So they say to you, you can have $500,000 of my money and you don't have to pay it back for 5 years, but after the end of 5 years, I expect you to sell. And then I will get my original 500,000 back plus all the interest, all the growth of the shares. It's not really interest like a loan, but their shares, they bought their shares of your business at, let's say, $100. In 5 years, they want the shares to be worth $500. So that's a big return for them. So getting an investor can be difficult for businesses without high growth potential. If you don't have the potential to grow that quickly, a lot of times you're not a good fit for an investor. So tips when you're working with an investor or pitching to an investor is, have all of your ducks in a row. Like, be ready. You need to know your numbers. You need to have realistic financial projections. You can't just say, oh yeah, you're going to get $400 per share when it's $100 per share now. You're going to have to show why you think that, right? You're going to have to really understand that. You're going to have a pitch deck, which is, a slide deck that outlines what you do, who you serve, how you do it, how much you're charging, and what's your growth plan. And then you're going to have a pitch also that talks where you talk somebody through that so they understand. Working with organizations like Queen City Angels, which is a local organization, is a great way to meet investors, angel investors. Again, like venture, when I was talking before about venture capital and how this presentation is not for people who are seeking venture capital. That's an investor as well, but they want dramatic growth. They call it hockey stick growth. They want to 10x, 100x their investment. Most of the average businesses aren't ever going to do that. So, but an angel investor is a little bit more realistic usually, and they want, they want a good return, but they're also understanding that not every business is going to bring them that. So seeking an investor is for you if you have high growth potential, not hockey stick growth like venture capital, but growth, right? Like they want a return and they want it in a fairly short time frame. And generally they are going to want you to sell your business. So they call that the exit. So they want a really profitable exit. Everybody makes money. You sell the business, you make a bunch of money, they make their money back with a whole bunch of extra money, and everybody's happy, right? That's the big exit, if you've heard people talk about that. Okay, and then the second type of leveraged money is loans. So a loan is money given to a business that must be paid back with interest. 43% of businesses applied for loans in 2024. So this is so common. So because it's so common and it's the path for most businesses when they're ready to grow and they've exhausted the grant opportunities, but they really want to grow, loans are the pathway. So I'm going to kind of dive deeper into loans right now. So I want to talk about what you can use loans for your business. So you can buy supplies and materials with a loan. You can buy equipment. You can pay for marketing and pay for salaries with a loan. That's called working capital. You can pay for tech upgrades if that's something that would help your business grow. You can pay for inventory. And by taking a loan, the other benefit of that is that you build your business credit, because now, you know how when you have a personal loan, like a car loan or a mortgage or something, you're building your personal credit. Well, this loan, if it's made to your business, it's going to help you build your business credit. And those are two separate things. Not initially. When you're early in business, your personal credit is your business credit, but the goal is to have your business have its own credit score. And then that keeps your own personal finances out of it. So the benefits of loans can be great for small businesses. They can be used for so many things. And government programs can help make it easier to get a loan. So you've probably heard of SBA loans. So I wanted just to kind of talk about that for a minute. So SBA is the Small Business Administration, and it's a federal program. They are not actually a lender. So an SBA loan the money doesn't come from the SBA. It comes from a regular lender like a bank. But what the SBA does is they know that banks are very risk averse, right? They don't want to risk their money on something where they might lose it. So what they do is they reduce a lot of the risk. So on a typical SBA loan, the SBA will guarantee like maybe 70% of the loan. So they're saying if you borrow $100,000, they will guarantee 70% of that. So the bank now is not risking $70,000, right? They're not risking that anymore. So now they're risking 30,000. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to say, you borrower need to bring 20% of the loan value to the table. So you need to have, of that 30,000 that they would risk, they want you to bring 20,000. And then they're risking 10,000. So out of the whole 100,000, the bank is only risking 10,000 in this example. And so you can see that the bank is much more excited about doing a loan where they're risking only 10,000 than they are if they're risking 100,000. But that brings a point of, a lot of times you have to have, almost always, you have to have money to bring to the table. So if the full amount that you need is 100,000, you're probably going to need to have 20,000. So to show, and sometimes you can show that you already spent that in your business. So there's some, they call that add backs, like you already spent it, but you can add it back in, but not always. So a lot of people, and I want to warn you all against this, a lot of people wait till the last minute. They're trying to bootstrap until the last minute, and they've spent all of their own money and they just can't afford to put any more money in. And then they go to the bank for the loan, and the bank is like, well, you don't have any skin in the game here. You're not bringing any money to this pot, to this project that you need the money for. So it's too risky for us. The challenges of getting a loan are credit score is important. So generally speaking, a traditional bank will not do a loan for you unless you have a credit score of 680 or above. There are some lenders who will go down to 640. But if you have a credit score below that, then that is going to be a problem and you're not going to be able to get a loan. However, of course, you can, just work on your credit score, right? Work on bringing it up. Okay. So another challenge is that the process is not quick. 30 days is average from approval to, from starting to work with them to getting the money, but they're going to ask for a lot of documents. And so you have to be kind of ready to do that. So it's just not a simple process. And then meetings, of course, with lenders can be really intimidating. We really try to help with that. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but, you have to know your numbers. You're going to talk about your business. It feels very vulnerable. It puts you in a vulnerable position. And many lenders are lovely people, but of course they still have to worry about what they have to worry about, and they're still risk averse. And so, unfortunately, that can be an intimidating situation. So loans are good for you if you have a strong business with good projected income, which is, many businesses. So do we have any questions about leveraged money? So investors or lenders?
Well, we don't have any specifically new questions on this portion, but we do want to kind of circle back to grants.
Sure.
Sherry asked if there is a specific website, or if there are specific websites that business owners can go to that can steer them to the right grants without having to pay for those sites, and so that they can avoid scammers. That can be a risk there as you're doing research.
Yeah. There really aren't any that are free. It's sometimes it can be worth paying because then you know that those grants are vetted. However, really just kind of maybe make a note to yourself once a month to just Google grants and see what you can find. And if they're typically, grants for businesses are typically from big companies, because so for example, Verizon was doing a grant and GoDaddy was doing a grant, but they were very specific. So GoDaddy's grant was you could get free website hosting for 2 years. It was very specific. So if you didn't need a website hosting, then the grant was not relevant to you. But any small grants or small organizations that are giving grants, I would not do them if they weren't local. I wouldn't even go down there because, like you said, Sherry, likely to be scammers. We are lucky in our region to have Main Street Ventures, which is a grantor that makes grants for twice a year for tech businesses, food and beverage, and product-based businesses. And so like retail, also retail. So they're Main Street Ventures, and Other than that, there's occasionally grants, like a city might do a grant or an incentive, but it's usually a government organization like a city or a state or a big company. So if it's something else and you see like, oh, grants, it just seems scammy, it's scammy. It's probably scammy. Yeah. You can also hire, I would, before I hired a grant writer, I would think about subscribing to one of those grant sites that shows you vetted grant opportunities. But if you end up working with a grant writer, they will also do grant research for you and help you decide on which grants are good for you, for your business. Any other questions?
We're good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into a section called Facts and Fiction about funding. So I want to dispel some myths. So the first one I want to talk about is this idea, I can't get funding for my business. And I want to share with you from all of my conversations with all of those funders in my capital advisory group and others that any business can get funding if they are properly prepared. So any business can get funding, but not at any time during their existence. So you have to be properly prepared, but you can do it. You can get funding. So don't give up. Remember all those organizations that are part of my capital advisory group. So these are some of the people who are on my capital advisory group. And the cool thing is that all of these people, they really want to support your business. They really want to do that. That's their purpose. But you just have to be prepared and ready for that funding. And we can help with that. So another fiction that's out there is that you don't need outside money. And maybe that is true, right? I mean, I'm not saying that's not true for you. You know your business, of course. But I will share the stat that 82% of all the companies that close each year do so because they did not have enough cash. So if you are watching your cash flow and you see that projections are going to be that cash is going to be tight, you might want to consider outside funding. The other piece of that is I don't want you to play smaller than you need to. So if you are thinking, I don't need outside funding, it might be, I'm lovingly going to suggest that you aren't thinking big enough. So for an example, Emily and Sophia went through our Aviatra program called Momentum, and they had one camper van that they had converted, it was like a van, they converted it to this really cool camper van, and they rented it out. So in that, kind of that COVID era when everybody wanted a camper van, they, instead of making people buy a camper van, they could rent theirs. Well, they had one camper van. And that kept them small, right? There was only 365 days that the camper van could be rented. So they got a loan. So they leveraged outside funding to get 6 more camper vans. Now, oh my gosh, right? So much more profit potential because they leveraged outside funding. So they were able to play a lot bigger game than they would have been if they had just stayed with the one camper van that they bootstrapped themselves. So another example is Vanessa and her gelato company. So she has Golden Gelato just down the street from Aviatra in Covington. You have to go. What they did is they don't want to open a second location. They are very happy where they are and they want to stay that size. But they realized that there's a lot of festivals all over the region. And they thought, well, we could sell our gelato at those festivals. So they got a gelato cart. So they got outside funding for the gelato cart, and it has been great because now they have somebody, an hourly employee, and they go to all these festivals, and they're making all this money from the gelato that those people would never have come to Covington to their store. They didn't even know about them. But now, not only did they buy from them at the festival, now they know about them, so they might come and visit their brick and mortar. So you see, again, if they had just stayed with their own brick and mortar, they're playing smaller than they need to. Melanie owns the Spicy Olive. So you may have seen her stores. She has 3 of them. Her flagship store is in Westchester, and she sells I'm just going to say fancy olive oils, flavored olive oils, amazing olive oils, and flavored vinegars and all kinds of other things, wine and these amazing baskets. Well, when she was just had her first store, her first Christmas after she opened, her first Christmas, she was like, I want to have this be an amazing Christmas. Because as with most retailers, she makes most of her money in that fourth quarter of the year. So she borrowed money to buy all this inventory, more inventory than she was able to afford with her own money. And she had the biggest Christmas season. Like, of course, she had not been through Christmas season, but it exceeded her goals by far. And so she was able to pay the money back quickly, and then she still had extra money left. And of course, now she had, built all these loyal customers too. So that was another benefit of that. So if she had stayed only with the amount of inventory that she was able to pay for herself at that time, she would not have nearly made as much money as she did. So I will lovingly say to you that it may be a fiction that you don't need outside money, and it might make sense for you to consider leveraging someone else's money so that you're not playing small. So I'd love to have you give some thought to how you would spend outside money to grow your business. So you're probably doing fine with your business. You're bootstrapping, you're making money, you're making sales, and you're doing fine. But if you can think a little bit bigger and think about what you would do with an influx of some money that would make you more money and grow your business, and give some thought to that. Another common myth is that money will solve all my problems. I don't know if some of you are in that boat where you're thinking, oh, all I need is a big chunk of money and then I'll be fine. The fact is that you actually need a strong business to succeed. I mean, you do need money, but you need that strong business. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce did this study, and they identified the 5 top characteristics or qualities that a business needs to be successful, and money was not in that list. So they identified that you need to be customer focused, you need to be creative, you need to be resilient, you need to have a strong vision, and you need to be adaptable. And those things will help you get the money, or they will help you leverage the outside money that you get to grow your business. So if you need money, take a moment before you go and try to get a loan or investor or a grant and think, well, how strong is my business? So if and when I get that money, can I really make the most of it? As I said, you need a strong business to succeed. We have a lot of resources for that. I mean, that's what Aviatra is all about, is helping you have a strong business. So the other thing that I want to talk about is that people think that the only things that matter to lenders and funders are my financials. And that is a big piece of it, because of course they want to feel confident that you will be able to pay them back or grow their investment in you. But it's not the only thing. Your story matters too. Who you are, why you started your business, why you love doing your business, why you're good at it, all of that matters to a lender and an investor, particularly to an investor. They really want to know that you care about what you're doing and that you are all in. And so one of the things that we offer in part of our Capital Ready Women program that I'm going to tell you about is we help you co-write your business narrative, which is a critical part of any funding ask. So think about your own story and think about how you would highlight your commitment to your business. What would you use? What anecdote or stat would you use to prove how committed you are to your business? And then the last fiction I want to address is this idea like, Jill, you have given me way too much to think about. I am very confused. I'm worse off than I was when I started here, so I might as well not even try. And I'm going to say, do not be me. Don't be me. Don't give up on your dreams before you even start. I'm sure you've heard the saying, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Let's not do that. Let's not have that be you. The costs of playing small Let's think about this, okay? If you're playing small and keeping yourself small by just trying to make everything work in your super scrappy way, which is a great characteristic to have as a business owner, but it can keep you playing small. So some of the costs, missed sales. If Melanie hadn't bought all that inventory, she wouldn't have had that hugely profitable holiday season. So she would have missed out on all those sales. Missed opportunities. So if you are growing your business, what other opportunities? Could you have a new product? Could you have a new program? Could you have a new partnership, a collaboration? Could you have an opportunity to, like Melanie did, have more than one spicy olive store, right? What are the opportunities that you're missing by playing small? Missed family time. I mean, we have to be realistic about this. You're a hardworking business person. What if you were able to afford some help in a significant way? You could spend more time with your family or doing whatever it is that you want to do with your time that's not work, if we can remember at that time. And then the last one is your missed goals and dreams. My dream of having a store that I never, ever pursued, I didn't even try to get educated about the funding. Well, I missed out on that. It's never going to happen. I don't want that for you. So the fact is, you should not give up. You have to just learn what you need. Learn what you need to know so that you can play as big as you want to. So I want to know, think to yourself, are you willing to commit to not giving up on yourself? If you are willing to not give up on yourself, I want to give yourself a fist bump right here. Sandra. All right, very good. Okay, so quick review of the myths and the facts and the fiction. So you can get funding. Any business can get funding if you're properly prepared. 2, you should not give up. I think I've probably made that clear. And 3, there is a roadmap for you. There is a roadmap for you from where you are now to successfully accessing the funding that you need. So I told you I would tell you about a tool that we developed. So this is called the Free Fundability Assessment. This is a tool that I created. It's a quiz, and I created it with the help of all the people in my capital advisory group. I asked them very specifically, what do you care about as a funder? What do you not care about as a funder? What kinds of businesses do you want to fund? What do you want them to bring to the table? And so all of that went into the quiz. So the way it works is there's actually a quick start here quiz. You take that quiz and it will help you figure out whether you're a better fit for an investor or a lender. And then you take the longer quiz and then it will give you a fundability score that will tell you how funder ready you are. So I would invite you to take that assessment. There is a QR code in the worksheet, and we can put a QR code. Well, yeah, the QR code is.
I went ahead and put a link to it in the chat. Make it easy for everybody.
Thank you. So I want to tell you a little bit about Capital Ready Women. This is the program that we have for women entrepreneurs to help them get funder ready. But first, I want to hear from you, okay? So I want to hear, and you're going to get your fingers ready to type. What has been the most helpful part of the presentation so far? Has it been talking through all the funding options? Has it been the facts and fiction piece? Has it been the success stories of the entrepreneurs who have gotten funding? I would love to know. So if you could just type in there in the chat, what has been helpful? And then we'll talk about a little bit more about you. I want to listen to you for a minute.
All right, so far we have the success stories and the funding ideas, funding options, the success stories, more funding options. Oh, just the whole thing. And thanks for breaking it down.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Okay, love it. Thank you for getting into the chat with that. That was great. So here's another question I want to ask of you. Do you have a business plan already? So I want you to type 1 if you have a business plan, or 2 if you do not have a business plan. And if you're working on one, you can go ahead and say no, that you don't have it yet.
All right, it looks like slightly heavier on the no, we do not have a business plan,
Okay.
but almost a 50-50 split.
Okay. Well, great job on the people who've already done this. And I want to tell you, the people who have not yet done it, we have resources, free resources to help you create your business plan. And that's really step one. And I'll tell you, it's worthwhile creating a business plan, even if you're not ready to go for funding, because it guides your decisions. First of all, it clarifies things for you. Just sitting down and doing the business plan will clarify so much for you. It helps you just put down, like gather together all the different parts of your business. And now you have it in one place. And then it's guiding your decisions. So for example, part of it is like what your goals are for the business. Well, if some opportunity comes up, you can think about, okay, well, I wrote in my goals, this, and this opportunity doesn't align with that. So it might be an easy no, or it might be well, actually, no, I want to change my goals because this opportunity is really exciting. It helps prevent some of that squirrel syndrome that many entrepreneurs have. So we have free opportunities or free resources to help you create your business plan. So second question, I know today was kind of high level, right? Going about all the funding options. So I want to know whether you're still kind of overwhelmed and confused about the different options and how you personally can use those options, the crowdfunding, the bootstrapping, the grants, the loans, the investors. So type 1 if yes, I'm still overwhelmed and confused, or 2 if nope, I understand now. Thank you.
That's looks 1 or 2. Like people are having some clarity. Thank you so much. Twos across the board.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that part of what Capital Ready Women is very customizable. It's not, some of our other programs are like, here's the modules, here's what you're going to learn, here's the takeaways. Capital Ready Women is built around your needs. So if you already have a business plan, fantastic. If you don't, we can help you build one. We can help you create, what we do with Capital Ready Women is we help you create your personalized funding success flight path. We call it a flight path instead of a roadmap because this program is airplane themed. So that's just what we call it. So it's the funding success flight path. And it's individual to you. So it's what you personally want to learn. Okay, sorry, my light keeps going out. I keep kicking it. So it's what you personally want to not learn, but what you personally need to do next. The next steps for you. How are you going to get funder ready? So I just wanted to share that wherever you are with this and whatever type of funding you want to go for, we can help with that. We can help identify and work with you to achieve those next steps. So next question I have for you is, how scary is it to think about talking to funders? Or have you had a bad experience with a bank? Like sometimes people get ghosted, or their bank was very dismissive of their idea, or even if everybody was pleasant and polite, they still got told no. And so they were like, well, I guess I'm never going to get funding. So if you are not excited about talking to funders, put yes. If you're like, nope, I'm best friends with many funders, I'm totally comfortable, then put 2.
All right. So looks like we have a very confident group today, capable, confident, ready to kick some butt and talk to some money people. And a couple people were like, oh, maybe hook me up with some love, please.
All right. Well, one of the things that we do, this is a really cool benefit of Capital Ready Women, is we'll take you through, once we have your flight path, your funding success flight path outlined, we'll take you through it. And when you are ready, I will know your business really well by then. And I can choose the people in my capital advisory group and other funders. I will know which ones are the best fit for you. And then we'll do facilitated introductions. So these are low pressure conversations where I'm on the Zoom call with you. So you'll be on the Zoom call, the funder and I will be all together, and I can guide the discussion, explain why I think your business is a good fit for them. They can ask you questions. It's just a really nice way of of doing this instead of going into the bank hat in hand, right, with all your little your little printouts and your flash drive and whatever else they want from you. This is just a really nice way to start the conversations and get connected with the funders that I think will be best for you. So this is what I suggest as your next step. No matter where you are in your funding journey, I recommend booking a call with me. So it's free. There's no obligation. We will brainstorm together about your business and try to figure out what your funding success flight path should be. So we'll work together to co-create that, and then we'll work together to walk you through that. And so Capital Ready Women is it's a mixture of free and paid resources, and we will get you to the right resources and we'll walk with you on it. So it's highly customizable, as I mentioned, to where you are now. When we get on the phone, that's what we're going to do, build the personal path to funding together. And I want to tell you, we call this a done together program. So, you know, there's done by you, DIY, done by you. And then there's done for you, which is, you know, obviously somebody doing this for you. And then there's done with you. And we were going to call Capital Ready Women a done with you program, but somebody told me that they thought I was saying like, I'm done with you. So we changed it and now we're done together. It's done together program. And I will be very blunt about it. Capital Ready Women is the most effective and the best supported way to prepare you to get the money that you need to grow your business. I stand firm in that. All right, so I want to do another little weird thing. Remember how you had to reach around and pat yourself on the back? Okay, we're going to do another thing like that. I'm going to have you close your eyes and think about 3 days from now. So 3 days from now, you've done this assessment. You've done that free fundability assessment. How do you feel about yourself? Regardless of the score that you got, the fundability score that you got, I hope that you feel really proud that you took another action step. I mean, that's amazing. That puts you 2 huge leaps ahead of where I was 20 years ago with my store idea that I never turned into reality. Okay, now we're thinking about ourselves 6 months from now. So you've done the program, you've worked with us in Capital Ready Women. So you have more clarity about your business. Your business plan is solid, you feel focused, you're very connected to your why and your whole story. How do you feel at that point? I hope you feel that you've really invested in yourself, the time that you have spent, whatever resources we've been able to connect you with. I hope that you feel that you're very invested in yourself and your business in a very productive way, a very proactive way, growth focused. And then a year from now, you have the funds. So you have expanded your inventory, you've hired help, you're seeing your sales go up. You're finding extra time in your day. How do you feel at that point? The only thing that is separating you from today and that situation a year from now is yourself, and it just takes action. And I will tell you, the best part about it, in my opinion, is you don't have to do this alone. Like I said, it's done together. We're all here to help you. So if you want to set up a call with me, here's the QR code. I think Jasmine put it in the chat. It's free. There's no obligation at all. We'll just talk about your business. We'll brainstorm together about what you need to grow and to be funder ready. So you can get the funding you need. You can open your interior design shop. You can buy the gelato cart. You can get your fleet of camper vans. You can order all the olive oil that you want and have the best holiday season ever. I close with all of my Facebook Lives every week with this, and I want to close here today with this. You can do this, and you don't have to do it alone. And thank you so much for joining me today. And if there are any questions that you have at the end, now's the time.
Jill, thank you so much. Looks like everybody is chatting away on the chat feed, thanking you for all this great information.
Great.
And I imagine that your phone is going to be blowing up with all of these booking calls.
I hope so. Yeah, I love talking with businesses. So just reach out. We'll get it on the calendar and we'll talk about funding. We'll talk about what else you need in your business. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's what we're here for. Aviatra, all about helping you grow.
Yes. And for anyone who slid in a little late, no worries. We'll have a recorded version of this sent out to everybody who signed up today.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.